You're about to witness the moment when human entitlement collides with physical reality, and spoiler alert, reality does not negotiate. What follows is a curated descent into complaints so disconnected from how the world actually works that you'll question whether these people have ever left their homes. Prepare to feel intellectually superior for the next 20 minutes, because these are 63 genuine grievances filed against beloved landmarks by people who apparently believed that geography, history, and the laws of physics were merely suggestions they could debate. Let's begin. Number 1. A visitor to Mount Rushmore in South Dakota complained that the presidents carved into the mountain don't smile enough, making the monument look uninviting and sad. Apparently, 4-story tall stone faces are supposed to be cheerful. The fact that they're permanent fixtures carved into solid rock, requiring genuine smiling muscles that geology doesn't possess, was apparently lost in translation. So she wanted happy presidents in a mountain. Why would anyone expect otherwise? Number 2. Someone visiting the Tower of Pisa in Italy filed a complaint that the tower is leaning and demanded it be straightened, asserting that this was clearly a design flaw. The tower has been leaning for nearly 900 years. The entire reason it's famous is because it leans. She was essentially demanding that Italy fix the one thing the landmark is known for. Imagine complaining that the Mona Lisa doesn't smile big enough, but worse. Number 3. A tourist at Big Ben in London complained that the clock chimes on the hour are too loud and suggested the monument install a mute button for a public clock in a city that has been chiming for over a century. So he wanted a mute button on Big Ben, not his hotel room, the actual monument. He was apparently unaware that you could, and I'm just spitballing here. Simply leave. Number 4. A visitor to the Statue of Liberty complained that the statue is too tall and difficult to see properly because you have to look up, and the sun gets in your eyes. He demanded that the National Park Service relocate the statue to a lower height so it would be more viewable. He was upset that a 305-foot copper monument was too big. The entire statues is that they're elevated. If they were closer to eye level, they'd be murals. This man wanted to fundamentally alter the geometry of how perspective works. Number 5. Someone complained to the management at Niagara Falls that the water falls too quickly and suggested they install a flow valve to slow it down so visitors could observe it more carefully. Apparently, the majesty of millions of gallons of water descending over a cliff every second was moving at an inconvenient pace. He wanted them to negotiate with gravity. On behalf of his observation preferences, number 6. A guest at the Great Wall of China complained that it's too long and too exhausting to walk, and demanded that the government install moving walkways and elevators at regular intervals. The structure spans over 13,000 miles across mountainous terrain. His solution? Conveyor belts. For the Great Wall. It's as if he thought the Great Wall was an airport terminal that had simply chosen not to be convenient. Number 7. A visitor to the Colosseum in Rome complained that there are too many tourists and demanded that entry be restricted to people who can prove they're genuine history enthusiasts. He would be the sole decider of who counts as genuine, naturally. The Colosseum was built to accommodate crowds. It's been a public monument for 2,000 years. His standards for emotional purity were apparently more important than that. Number 8. Someone complained to the management at Stonehenge that the rocks are arranged in a confusing pattern and suggested that the site hire someone to reorganize them into a more logical grid. He believed a 5,000-year-old archaeological site should be reorganized for his personal clarity. The fact that moving them would destroy their historical and cultural significance was apparently a feature, not a bug, in his mind. Number 9. A visitor to the Eiffel Tower in Paris complained that it's too French and demanded that the iconic monument be painted a different color to be more internationally inclusive. The Eiffel Tower's Frenchness is not a bug, it's arguably the entire point. He was essentially asking France to stop being France so he could feel more comfortable. Number 10. Someone filed a complaint that the aurora borealis appears at unpredictable times and suggested that the Norwegian government install a schedule or at least send notifications when it's about to happen. He wanted to schedule the northern lights, like they were a restaurant reservation. The universe operates on its own timeline, and he was demanding it synchronize with his calendar. It somehow gets worse. Number 11. A tourist at the Great Pyramids of Giza complained that the pyramids cast shadows, which made it difficult to photograph them, and demanded that the Egyptian government remove the shadows during tourist season. She wanted them to eliminate the sun's shadow on a pyramid. This would require either moving the sun, moving the pyramid, or bending the laws of physics. She'd ranked these as about equally feasible, apparently. Number 12. Someone complained to the Venice Tourism Board that there's too much water in Venice and suggested they drain the canals and rebuild them with boardwalks instead. Venice is literally built on water. The entire city is designed around that water. He was asking them to destroy the fundamental geographical feature that makes Venice Venice. Number 13. A visitor to Christ the Redeemer in Rio de Janeiro complained that the statue points to the sky instead of down at the city and demanded it be rotated to face downward so visitors could feel more welcomed. A 38-meter statue weighing 635 tons should pivot on its base to validate his sense of hospitality. The idea that a monument's pose might be intentional didn't cross his mind. Number 14. Someone filed a complaint that the British Museum has too many artifacts and suggested they reduce their collection by half to make the museum less overwhelming. The museum exists because people donated historically significant objects. His solution was to remove them from the museum, where they're supposed to be. Number 15. A tourist at the Taj Mahal complained that the marble is too white and suggested it be painted a more neutral color to be less distracting. The Taj Mahal's white marble is the entire aesthetic foundation of the monument. He essentially wanted them to paint over what makes it iconic. Would you even visit if they did that? Number 16. Someone complained that the Statue of Liberty holds a torch, which they believe is a fire hazard, and demanded that it be replaced with an LED light for safety. The torch is symbolic and iconic. It's not an actual fire hazard because it's not actually lit. But sure, let's replace America's most famous monument because one person read a pamphlet about fire codes and didn't understand context. Number 17. A visitor to the Colosseum complained that the structure has holes in the walls and demanded they be filled in, stating the monument looked unfinished. The Colosseum is nearly 2,000 years old. The holes aren't flaws. They're what's left. The idea that a centuries-old ruin should look like a pristine new building reveals a spectacular misunderstanding of what ruin means. Number 18. Someone filed a complaint that the Golden Gate Bridge is too foggy in San Francisco and demanded that the city purchase industrial fans to blow the fog away during tourist season. He wanted to fight meteorology with commercial cooling equipment. The sheer confidence in this absurdity is almost admirable. Number 19. A tourist at Machu Picchu complained that the site is too high altitude and suggested that Peru build an elevator to the top so people wouldn't have to climb. The entire point of Machu Picchu is that it's in the Andes Mountains. An elevator to a mountaintop Incan citadel would be like putting wheels on Stonehenge. It would destroy the entire thing. Number 20. Someone complained to the management of the Sistine Chapel that Michelangelo's ceiling is too high and suggested lowering it by installing a false ceiling closer to the ground. People would then be staring at the false ceiling instead of the famous painting. But sure, let's cover up one of history's greatest artworks because one person had a sore neck. This is escalating. Number 21. A visitor to the Hollywood Walk of Fame complained that there are too many stars and demanded that the city remove the ones for celebrities he personally disliked. He wanted municipal resources dedicated to curating the sidewalk based on his entertainment preferences. The audacity to think city government should do this is staggering. Number 22. Someone filed a complaint that Mount Everest is too difficult to climb and demanded that Nepal install an escalator to the summit. An escalator to Everest, on an ice-covered mountain where temperatures drop to minus 60 degrees. This person had apparently never seen an escalator break, much less imagined maintaining one at 29,032 feet. Number 23. A tourist at the Acropolis in Athens complained that the ancient Greek ruins don't have air conditioning and demanded that the site be enclosed in a climate-controlled building. He wanted to put a giant box around Greek architectural history because he was hot. The entire point of visiting ancient monuments is to see them in their original context, but sure, let's defeat that by making them climate-controlled warehouses. Number 24. Someone complained that the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona has been under construction for over 100 years and demanded that they speed it up or abandon the project. The cathedral is intentionally intricate and complex. Construction is ongoing because perfection takes time. He essentially wanted art to move faster so it would inconvenience him less. Number 25. A visitor to Angkor Wat complained that the temple complex is too large and suggested dividing it into smaller, more manageable sections. You cannot subdivide a 12th century temple complex. They're not IKEA furniture. This was a request to dismember history because he was tired. Number 26. Someone filed a complaint that Niagara Falls is too loud and demanded that the site provide quiet zones for visitors. The roaring sound is the entire experience. It's the sound of millions of gallons of water falling per second. He was complaining about the fundamental acoustic property of moving water. Would you even call it Niagara Falls if it was quiet? Number 27. A tourist at the Empire State Building complained that there are too many stairs and demanded an escalator in the stairwell. Escalators on stairwells. That's a man who has truly thought things through. You could alternatively use the elevator that already exists. But no. Let's turn the stairs themselves into moving stairs. Number 28. Someone complained to Westminster Abbey that they weren't allowed to take photos inside the church and demanded they change the policy because he wanted to document his visit. Apparently, 6 centuries of preserving religious artwork and the integrity of a sacred space mattered less than his Instagram engagement. How dare a historic church prioritize conservation over his photography? Number 29. A visitor to the Christ the Redeemer statue complained that you have to take a train up the mountain and demanded they build a road so he could drive his car to the top. A mountain in Rio de Janeiro with extremely limited space, hosting thousands of daily visitors? should accommodate his personal vehicle preference. That's not entitlement. That's a man living in a simulation where physics and common sense are optional settings. Number 30. Someone filed a complaint that the Kremlin walls in Moscow are too thick and asked how they were supposed to be breached during wartime. He was not a historian. He was not military strategist. He was a tourist confused about the basic purpose of fortress walls, and he was genuinely upset that medieval engineers had done their job. The absurdity is compounding. Number 31. A tourist at the Louvre complained that the Mona Lisa is behind bulletproof glass and demanded the museum remove it so he could touch the painting. He wanted to touch one of the most famous artworks in human history, and he was genuinely angry that the museum had installed protection, as if museums exist to facilitate direct contact with 400-year-old masterpieces. Number 32. Someone complained that the Leaning Tower of Pisa is surrounded by crowds and demanded that the city build a second unleaning tower so tourists could visit both. He wanted Italy to construct an entirely new landmark because one existing landmark had too many people around it. The sheer entitlement of demanding a parallel monument is almost impressive. Number 33. A visitor to the Parthenon complained that the ancient structure doesn't have modern safety railings and demanded they be installed everywhere. He was upset that a 2,400-year-old temple didn't meet modern building codes. The fact that it has survived millennia without them apparently meant they should be added now, destroying the historical accuracy. Number 34. Someone filed a complaint that Big Ben's tower is difficult to enter and demanded that Big Ben install an elevator outside the building so tourists could ride up without having to go inside. An external elevator on the Palace of Westminster. This is what peak urban planning looks like in someone's head. Number 35. A tourist at the Grand Canyon complained that it's too large and the vista is overwhelming and demanded that the National Park Service install dividers to break it up into smaller, less dramatic sections. He wanted to subdivide one of Earth's greatest natural wonders because his sense of perspective couldn't handle it. Number 36. Someone complained to the management of the Uffizi Gallery that there are too many paintings and suggested they sell off the ones he personally didn't enjoy to make room for more space. He was proposing that a world-class museum liquidate their collection based on his individual aesthetic preferences. That's not constructive criticism. That's a request to turn a museum into a personalized gallery. Number 37. A visitor to Versailles complained that the palace is too large and suggested that France cut it in half so it would be easier to tour in a single day. He wanted them to demolish half of one of history's most magnificent buildings because it was inconvenient. The idea that some experiences require time and effort was apparently foreign to him. Number 38. Someone filed a complaint that the Vatican museums require visitors to walk and suggested they install moving walkways throughout the entire complex. Moving walkways through one of the world's greatest art collections. He wanted to experience 500-year-old paintings while being conveyed passively through the space, like he was at an airport. Number 39. A tourist at the London Eye complained that the observation wheel moves too slowly and demanded that it spin faster so he could complete his tour more quickly. The entire point of the London Eye is the gradual ascent and descent, allowing visitors to see the city from changing perspectives. He wanted to defeat the purpose of the attraction because he was impatient. Have you ever met someone who demands that an experience designed for leisure move faster? Number 40. Someone complained that the aurora borealis in Norway is sometimes green instead of purple, and demanded that the government somehow change the colors to be more aesthetically consistent. The aurora's colors are determined by solar-wind interaction with atmospheric nitrogen and oxygen. He was asking the Norwegian government to negotiate with the sun's chemistry, just to be consistent with his color preferences. We're halfway through, and it only gets worse. Number 41. A visitor to the Forbidden City complained that the buildings are arranged in a confusing way and demanded that the site provide a simplified map that tells him exactly where to walk. The Forbidden City is a palace complex spanning nearly 300 acres. It's intentionally designed to be labyrinthine. He was upset that a 600-year-old imperial residence didn't function like a modern shopping mall. Number 42. Someone filed a complaint that Stonehenge is roped off and you can't touch the rocks, and demanded that the site remove the barriers so visitors could have a more authentic experience. Keeping people from directly touching and damaging 5,000-year-old archaeological artifacts is apparently inauthentic. His sense of authenticity meant deteriorating one of humanity's greatest mysteries with his hands. Number 43. A tourist at the Kremlin complained that there are too many boring historical artifacts and suggested they replace them with modern art installations to make the site more contemporary. He wanted to remove centuries of Russian history from the Kremlin and replace it with modern art, so it would be more relatable to him. This is what happens when someone mistakes their personal taste for universal improvement. Number 44. Someone complained to the management of the Uffizi Gallery that they closed the museum too early in the evening and demanded they stay open until midnight to accommodate his schedule. A world-class museum should operate on his personal sleep schedule. The idea that historic buildings require maintenance, that staff have families, or that preserving precious artifacts requires careful climate control apparently never crossed his mind. Number 45. A visitor to the Great Wall of China complained that the wall doesn't have bathrooms at regular intervals and demanded that the government install modern plumbing along the entire structure. He wanted 13,000 miles of medieval wall to have a bathroom every quarter mile, so he wouldn't have to plan ahead or use alternative solutions. The infrastructure required for that project would cost billions and involve environmental devastation. But sure, let's do it for his convenience. Number 46. Someone filed a complaint that the Colosseum in Rome is now just ruins and demanded that Italy rebuild it to look like it did in ancient times so he could experience it properly. He wanted Italy to construct a 2,000-year-old arena from scratch, complete with gladiators presumably, so he could have an immersive historical experience without having to actually learn anything about history. Number 47. A tourist at the Sagrada Familia complained that the ceilings are too high and the space makes him feel small, and demanded that the cathedral be redesigned to be more intimate. Antoni Gaudí designed a cathedral with soaring heights and magnificent scale intentionally. This man wanted it gutted and rebuilt to coddle his personal spatial comfort. The hubris of thinking your comfort should override a master architect's vision is breathtaking. Number 48. Someone complained that the Taj Mahal takes too long to walk around and demanded that the site provide a shortcut that bypasses the gardens. The gardens are half the experience. He was asking them to allow him to skip the intended journey to get to the destination faster, which defeats the purpose of traveling to see it. Number 49. A visitor to the British Museum complained that there are no eating facilities inside and demanded that they build a full restaurant serving specifically British food and tea. A world-class museum with nearly 9 million artifacts should interrupt the experience with restaurants to serve his nationality preferences. Apparently, packing snacks was not an available option in his mind. Number 50. Someone filed a complaint that the Louvre is free entry after a certain time, but the crowds are too large, and demanded that they charge admission during free hours to reduce attendance. He wanted the museum to charge money to keep poorer people out so he could visit more comfortably. That's not a complaint about the landmark. That's a request to use price as a class barrier. Would you even want that kind of person deciding museum policy? We've reached the summit of human entitlement. Number 51. A tourist at Mount Rushmore complained that the 4 presidents are not diverse enough and demanded that the monument be expanded to include presidents he considered more important. He wanted them to blast 4 additional president-sized heads into the mountain because 4 monumental sculptures were insufficient. The logistics, the cost, the ecological impact, none of it mattered. His sense of historical completeness required literal mountaineering. Number 52. Someone complained to the management of the Acropolis that ancient Greek ruins don't have wheelchair accessibility and demanded that they install elevators throughout the structure, not at the structure, through it. He wanted them to cut into 2,400-year-old marble monuments to insert modern infrastructure. Destroying the artifacts would apparently be acceptable if it made the place more accessible to him personally. Number 53. A visitor to Versailles complained that Marie Antoinette's bedroom is too small and demanded that France expand the palace to make the royal quarters more spacious. He wanted them to restructure one of history's most magnificent buildings because he thought a French queen's living situation was insufficiently luxurious. The idea that the room was designed for, historical accuracy apparently didn't compute. Number 54. Someone filed a complaint that the Statue of Liberty doesn't have an elevator inside the torch and demanded that it be installed so people could stand inside the torch without climbing. She wanted to access the torch without ascending through the structure. The torch is symbolic. It's not a destination, but she felt that her comfort mattered more than the design integrity of a monument representing freedom. Number 55. A tourist at the Colosseum complained that gladiators no longer fight there and demanded that the Italian government reinstate gladiatorial combat for authentic historical reenactment. He wanted Italy to resume an ancient practice of armed men fighting to the death for his tourist entertainment. This man had apparently never considered that some historical practices stayed in the past because we agreed they were abhorrent. Number 56. Someone complained that Niagara Falls is too far from the parking lot and demanded that the government move the waterfall closer to the access point. He wanted them to relocate one of North America's most famous waterfalls because he didn't want to walk. This is the thought process of someone who has never encountered a problem they couldn't try to externalize onto someone else. Number 57. A visitor to the Taj Mahal complained that she had to remove her shoes when entering and demanded that the site provide shoe storage lockers on every floor so she wouldn't have to carry them. The Taj Mahal is a mausoleum built to honor the dead. Removing shoes is a sign of respect in that culture. Her comfort with footwear mattered more to her than honoring the reason the building exists. How do you navigate that kind of cultural perspective? And now we arrive at the final 6, number 58. Someone filed a complaint that the aurora borealis appears randomly and without warning, making it impossible to schedule viewing, and demanded that the Norwegian government install massive LED screens in the sky as a backup light show so visitors would always have something to see. He wanted Norway to create artificial auroras if the natural ones didn't cooperate with his vacation timeline. This is what happens when someone mistakes weather for a service industry that should optimize for his convenience. Number 59. A tourist at the Parthenon complained that the ancient philosophers aren't around anymore to explain their ideas and demanded that the Greek government hire actors to dress as historical figures and perform lectures throughout the site. He wanted living historical reenactment on demand while touring the ruins. The idea that he could perhaps read a book or hire a tour guide never occurred to him. He wanted the monument itself to provide real-time entertainment commentary. Number 60. Someone complained to the management of the British Museum that certain artifacts are displayed behind glass and demanded that the museum remove the glass and allow visitors to handle the pieces directly. He wanted unrestricted access to priceless, irreplaceable historical objects, because being able to touch them mattered more to him than the 2% of human population getting to see them remain intact for future generations. His 3-minute tactile experience was worth the potential destruction of everyone else's inheritance. Number 61. A visitor to the Grand Canyon complained that the overlooks don't have railings and demanded that they be installed everywhere, then complained that the railings obstruct the view and demanded that they be removed. He complained about the absence of safety features and then complained about their presence. The monument can never be what he wants because what he wants is simultaneously contradictory. He was upset at an inanimate geographic feature for not reading his mind. Number 62. Someone filed a complaint that the Eiffel Tower doesn't have a hotel inside it and demanded that Paris convert several floors into luxury accommodations. He wanted to live inside a landmark while visiting it, not nearby, inside the actual structure. The idea that some monuments are monuments because they're monuments, not because they're hospitality infrastructure, apparently never occurred to him. And finally, number 63. A tourist visited Mount Rushmore and afterward filed a complaint that the monument doesn't change seasonally, doesn't get decorated for holidays, doesn't provide different visual experiences throughout the year, and basically complained that a giant stone carving is static and boring. He wanted a 4-story mountain monument to have seasonal variety. He was upset that geology didn't have a capacity for novelty, that a landmark carved into rock didn't rotate its appearance to keep him entertained. This was a man who had finally reached the peak of entitlement. He wanted the earth itself to consider his boredom and make changes. And when I tell you this is what happens when someone has never met a consequence, I mean it genuinely. This person had apparently lived his entire life under the impression that discomfort was everyone else's responsibility to fix. So what does this mean? What do we take from 63 examples of people so disconnected from basic reality that they've filed official complaints against the laws of physics, the immutability of stone, the concept of historical preservation, and the very nature of landforms? We learn that entitlement isn't actually about wanting things. It's about the complete absence of the thought process that precedes wanting. It's the inability to recognize that the world operates on principles that don't require your approval, that your comfort is not a universal value, that some things are built to last, not to please, and that's okay, that a monument's purpose might be something other than your convenience. And most devastatingly, that sometimes the answer to why can't they change this is simply because it shouldn't be. Here's my question for you. Have you ever actually witnessed someone lodge a complaint this absurd, either about a landmark or about something in daily life that was equally immutable? Because I'd genuinely love to hear what the most ridiculous grievance you've personally encountered was. Leave it in the comments. Because honestly, you probably have a story that tops at least 3 of these. And if this video reminded you that you're definitely not crazy for finding these complaints baffling, hit that like button and subscribe for more proof that common sense is rarer than we'd all like to believe.